Brian Manning here. Welcome to the Garden Report. Noah Dalzell and Joe Mazzulla just wrapped training camp here at Auerbach Center. The Celtics head to Abu Dhabi tomorrow. Going to see a preseason game on Friday as well as Sunday. And Mazzulla's approach to camp right from media day, pretty intense, pretty driven, not wanting to go back on a lot of the things that they did last year. I felt like Brad Stevens was in a similar position now that we've seen through camp. The different videos coming out, photos of them playing wiffle ball, some handoff drills, different stuff like that, that is trying to build camaraderie, build habits. And I think something he stressed is being able to execute easy things in difficult situations. And my overall feel to this camp has been making sure they don't lapse on things they did last year. Execution, attention to details, sacrificing. I think there's a big test going on in terms of who's going to continue to sacrifice and who can fit into this culture among new guys. And I know we talked about some of the new guys that can be involved. They're seeing if those guys can do the things that the regular contributors did here. So no let up from Joe. Many of the guys
definitely not. Yeah.
This is the hardest camp they've been in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it's always going to be like training camp's hard. We're doing a lot, but I feel like Al Horford is somebody that he's very comfortable telling the media, like, we didn't have a great practice today, or it was below our standards or whatnot. Like, he's had plenty of those kinds of instances over the years. And he said he was really impressed with everybody's effort, with their focus. Really happy with what he's seeing through a week here of training camp. Joe Mazzulla said the same. So I think all the indications is that everybody came in recharged, re-energized. I mean, Jaylen Brown's talked about it quite a bit this week about how he's in the best shape of his life. He's so driven. Everybody has this really kind of business-minded mentality. And I think obviously you're going to hear those things and everybody wants to say those things, but there does seem like I do buy into it. I do feel like just being around here, it seems like everybody's really locked in and understanding that it's not going to be like, okay, we won last year, we're just going to continue off of that and win again. And I think the reality is like, no team has done it back-to-back in a number of years now. And so there's no reason to think that just because you win one year, you'll win the following year. Like, that's the era of the NBA that we're in right now. And in turn, I think this mentality that Joe's had, and I mean, this is not just from training camp. Like, he's been saying this. He was on Locked On Celtics. He was saying this. Like, Brad was saying this back in June. Like, I think this has been all summer, them preaching this idea of like, we're starting over and we're going to have to get right back to the basics.
Yeah, some interesting quotes throughout too. I remember Brad on media day saying, it's great when you start, everybody's back, everyone's excited, but then teams could go apart.
Yeah.
Things can, they're fragile. This whole thing they built last year could shatter. And for Joe, looking back at all these recent champions who didn't repeat, they've stressed how this isn't going to happen automatically. And they want to open up a wider window here of competitiveness through habits, through development, through being able to sustain this year to year. Because it was easy last year, right? Guys came in who hadn't won. Guys who have been here hadn't won and have come close and had those disappointments. So that inspired the attention and focus and all those different things that carried them to winning last year. And I know one of the emphasis Joe had today was that it's going to be hard some days to find that level of focus. The practice might not go well. They might not be playing well through a string of games. And how can they find themselves again in that spot? I also think what's interesting here, do the baseball stuff or whatever else they're doing in there, they want to be able to relax a little bit too. Like, they don't want always this intense focus. So that to me is going to be the big thing this year. How do you balance knowing it's the regular season, knowing maybe you don't have to win the East by 14 games with playing as well as you did last year?
Yeah, and I think this is like kind of been a hallmark of this era of the Celtics team is balancing fun. And, it's exemplified in Derek White and the shooting competitions that he does with assistant coaches, that even during the playoffs when they had lost game 2 versus Miami, we went to Miami for practice before game 3, all this tension around the team and drama in the press and everything. And Derek White, the only thing we saw him do was do this trick competition for like 30 minutes, right? And I think that now that they won, everybody can kind of buy into that a little bit more. I mean, in the public, like the fans and everything, but we just saw a bunch of kids running around practice for the last, 40 minutes. Everybody's kid was playing knockout and duck, duck, goose and everything. And I don't know. I mean, I haven't covered another NBA team, but it does seem like this particular group and Joe Mazzulla and everybody, they've really made it a point to stress that like fun is a part of things and like the balance between family and winning and all that. And it's been very clear through training camp that it's a very light energy, focus and hardworking, but still very light and fun.
Here's Al talking a little bit about Joe's approach to camp.
Yeah, honestly, it's just keeping an open mind. For me, it's just, Joe, there's a lot of new concepts, a lot of new things that are being thrown around, and what I've learned, this is going to be my third season with Joe, is just trusting him, and we're all, just kind of letting it, seeing where it goes, and I feel like we usually usually pays off for us. So, I'm trusting whatever he tells us to do.
So I think that's another thing here as well, the open mind. And Joe's talked about they might have to react. They might have to become a new team. The environment might change. There can be more injuries beyond Porzingis to happen here. And all of a sudden we're talking about new players coming in. And it's another thing I want to talk about ahead some of these Denver games here. But trends could change around the league. That's something Joe's talked about. They might not have to win the way they did last year, and they can't expect to win the way they did last year, is something he stressed as well. So this could end up being a different Celtics team in some ways. He's mentioned, we didn't get a good reaction to Karl Towns stuff today, or some stuff other teams have done around the league. It feels like they want to keep the focus more inward. But I think that's part of it as well, is the understanding that there's a different cast of competitors around the league as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say the Knicks and the 76ers both on paper got better this offseason. And those were two of the the biggest threats or rivals of the Celtics in the East going into the offseason. So
you didn't see them last year.
Yeah, and so certainly those are there. But I always buy into, I know that it's kind of a cliche thing of we think about ourselves first, but it is true. If they're playing really well, it doesn't matter if the Knicks got Karl Anthony Towns or if Paul George is on the 76ers, and if they're not buying in and everybody's focused on the details, the Hornets might beat them. So that's the truth.
Hornets?
Maybe.
In a series?
No, I mean in a game. Yeah, I don't mean in a series. I just mean the margin of error is so thin in the NBA that it is just so much more about yourself. Not in the series. I'm not high on the Hornets the way that other people are.
Make that a video.
No, we don't need to make that a video.
All right. She is Noah Dalzell, everybody, man. That's a wrap on training camp. We were brought to you by Game Time, CLNS. Get you $20 off your first purchase over there. Terms apply. And Prize Picks. Use code CLNS for a bonus on your daily fantasy sports team over there every day. For Noah Dalzell, you got Boston, SB Nation. I'm Brian Manning, CLNS Media. This has been the Guard Report, and we will have post-game coverage of Celtics Nuggets, the first preseason game coming up on Friday. Celtics off to Abu Dhabi. Who's going to play in that game? Who do we want to see? First impressions of some new guys.
Hey, Brian Manning here. If you made it this far, you probably enjoyed this video, so subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out our social media platforms at Celtics CLNS.